Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Celtic Down Under weekend review. My name is Anthony Maguire. This week I'm joined by, and I'm sure I'm going to get these two mixed up, Sean and Shane. Thank you very much for joining me. Apologies for not being on last week. I turned 40 last week. I know you can't believe it looking at me that I'm 40 years old, but yes, I am. And I've had a few too many parties either weekend, so I've been a wee bit loose, and thankfully I had a chance to watch the game back today. So you're getting drunken, hungover vibes watching the game. So it should be some good analysis. So that's been pretty much my thing. This is probably my best birthday present. A lovely Hawaiian shirt from the Celtic club from my auntie, who's actually a Motherwell supporter. But she said there's only one person I can imagine wearing that, and it's you, Anthony. So there you go. And then my dad is also, if I get my angles right, that's the 2000-2001 Celtic team. So that's got Larsson's signature and Sutton and Albie and all the big guns. But so yes, a couple of Celtic related gifts on my 40th. Sean, how was your weekend, mate?
My weekend was not the best. I was trying not to swear. Hold on. Up to a part of my proverbial and doing school reports.
You're still doing them?
I finished them last night.
Okay.
Yeah, let's not talk about the fact I was already 8 days over deadline. So I'm done now. It was a rough weekend getting it done. At one point, I'd done like 6 straight hours of the report writing, and I was like, this is driving me to drink. So I had a cider. I was like, oh, that took the edge off. So I had a second cider. And then I was like, oh, I'd take a break for an hour because I was then too drunk to write a report. After 2 ciders, this is just what I was driven to. And I wasn't even drunk. I was just too over it to be able to drink. It's like driving, you just can't do it sensibly.
So ChatGPT can't help you out with those, Sean?
Nah, man.
Not allowed to do that?
It doesn't know the kids so well.
Okay. All right. Well, fair enough. You're through it now. That's the main thing. And Celtic performed on the weekend, so it's not all bad. Shane, you're burning the midnight oil just about over in Melbourne. So thank you very much for joining us. Filling in because Richard and Paul will be back, but they're on holidays. So that's part of the reason why we also didn't have a podcast last week. So Shane, how have you been? What's been happening? You tell me all your sporting teams are winning. Tell me all about it. What's been going on?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on board. I know it is about 11:30 p.m. here, but as you've articulated on previous episodes, I am a bit of a night owl, so this just isn't really going beyond the realms of my usual awake levels anyway. But thank you for having me on board. Pleasure to be with you, gentlemen, as always. And, of course, happy birthday for last weekend, mate. Sounds like you had a blast. It's most weekends are pretty much sport-filled at the moment for me. So, and this weekend gone by was no exception. So we've got our local football season on, of course, the A-League here. So Melbourne Victory, 3-1 winners in an away game, quote-unquote, against Western United. That was good to attend. But also we've got our local or national basketball season midway through the season at the moment, and got to rock up to that on Saturday afternoon and see a 103-100 win, and it literally came down to the final second of the game. So it was it was enthralling stuff and well worth the price of admission.
You also have the world's most understanding girlfriend partner for the amount of sporting events that you seem to be able to attend, Shane. A fair play to you. I think Glory got a point away on the road, which is like, where'd that come from? They're having a very tough season.
They won a game yet? I don't think they've won a game
yet. They've won one, but
no.
They got a point away against Adelaide, so that's something. And I think the Wildcats must have won because Bryce Cotton scored the most number of points in the current something. So presumably you win. Presumably you win when somebody does that. So so WA team's probably not so bad this weekend, but I'm still getting over India beating Australia in the first cricket test, but. Less said about that, the better. McLaughlin P is quick on the chat. He's done his usual wee stippy, which is usual hello. And he's saying that the first half of Celtic TV was so good that they couldn't be bothered uploading the second half. Yes, we did have that discussion in the group chat. It did take them a wee while to be bothered uploading that second half, but That's Celtic TV in a nutshell. Celtic seem pretty good at selling virtual bits of ground, but yet they can't seem to sell an actual virtual season ticket to people who don't live in Scotland.
I wonder if
Sean Seethan. Gosh.
I wonder if they've picked up on the fact I've been relentless for the last like 2 or 3 months. Every time Celtic TV or Celtic FC post on X with something to do with Celtic TV, in the comments every time, is your stream working? Have you fixed it? What was the money going to? This is a shambles. Like every time they post, I'm commenting on it. I'd wonder if anything's getting through, but I'm just going to keep plugging away at it until something sticks with someone.
Sean, you've got an admirer in the chat here saying, thank goodness Sean is back. What a handsome chap. So it's either that or your missus is on her phone again. I don't know, but anyway, so that's very nice. Thanks for the fan mail. That's really good. And then we've got Jerry here saying, how are we today, lads? What performance on Saturday? Yes, it was. And I guess I'd been celebrating my birthday for the second or third time by that point, so I didn't quite get the team lines going into the match, but I'm not sure if you guys were. Obviously, Sean, you were covering it on Axom. So obviously 6 changes, always be a bit of a red flag when you see that number of changes, but it is Ross County at home, I suppose. But sometimes when you start ringing the changes, disjointed performance. We had a sluggish first half against Bruges, better second half. Maeda scores a cracking goal. But if you go back to the Hearts game again, pretty safe, I'd say, first half. I watched it back this week, and it was didn't play bad the first half, but I just felt we were very safe in possession. We weren't really forcing the issue. And then second half, obviously, we start doing that. We get the goal and 4-1. And I love to have been on here last week talking about beating Hearts because, who doesn't want to talk about smashing the Diet Huns? But I guess, Sean, back to my question, 6 changes. What was your initial reaction to that? Any sort of concerns? Or are you thinking, well, these guys deserve a start because, McCown's been showing good form coming off the bench. Bernardo, you're wondering why he's not getting a start more often. That's my personal opinion. But what were your thoughts?
I wasn't concerned, no. I remember we had the Falkirk game earlier where Rodgers came out after and admitted he'd made too many changes. I don't remember how many it was that day. Maybe it was 9 or something like that.
It was about 8 or 9, yeah.
Yeah, so it was even more that day, and we did struggle in the first half in particular. I think we were 2-1 down at half time. But with Ross County's away record, I was not concerned, to be honest. They just regularly capitulate. I think that's the only team that Lazarus FC have beaten by more than 2 goals this season when they travelled down to Glasgow and played at Hampden. So they had folded before they even got on the bus in Dingwall. Like they're a shambles. Like that game was an advert for league reconstruction, because how far down in the pyramid do you have to go to find a team who would be more cowardly and fall apart and just be an absolute wet paper towel more than Ross County were on Saturday? I reckon you're going probably to the lower half of the Lowland League, and we're talking about, and this is the team that was 8th, that is currently 8th place in the SPFL Premiership, and I see very little difference between what they put up and what, say, for example, East Kilbride put up against Celtic when we played them a couple of years ago, or the Scottish Cup draws tonight. We'll see. We might end up with Musselburgh or something. Falkirk did immeasurably better than Ross County did, and Falkirk are been stuck down in League One and Championship for, I don't know, was it 2 decades now or something like that? So that game on Saturday was an advert for league reconstruction.
Shane, I know
went from one point onto another there. Sorry,
that's all right. That's okay. Shane, you obviously, it was middle of the night for you. Will be about 2 a.m. kickoff. So did you sort of watch it delayed without knowing the score, or what did you? Where did you tackle this one?
No, I'm terrible. I always check scores. I can't. I'm pretty much addicted to my phone and checking things all the time. The idea that I could manage to navigate through a day or even a morning watching it without checking the score is impossible. So literally, the first thing I did, I got to about 150 inadvertently and just couldn't make it that extra journey. First thing I did when I got up on Sunday morning was check the score and thought, oh yeah, not bad. And then ended up rewatching it a little bit piecemeal. I watched the first half last night, then watched the second half this morning. It's hard to follow what Sean went through there. I feel like he went in on the long run and went through a few things. He was very subtle, though. I couldn't really quite grasp how he felt about Ross County. So maybe he's going to have to spell it out for me. But yeah, following that, it's a hard act to follow, mate.
Oh, well,
I've got a Ross County top in my cupboard.
It's all about opinions.
I used to live up there. I love Ross County. I love Dingwall, but that was like feeble, right? Like, what's the point?
Yeah, I must admit, I think Ross Laidlaw, he was coming off. It's like, I've let 5 goals in, like, get the other goalie on. Like, I must admit, and in fairness, the younger goalkeeper, the other goalkeeper did a lot better. He pulled some actually really good saves. But we'll get to that. We're getting slightly ahead of ourselves. So just to sort of recap, the changes that were made: Liam Stales came in for Austin Trusty, Alex Vai came in for Greg Taylor, Luke McCowan and Paolo Bernardo in the midfield in place of Rio Hatati and Arnie Engels, James Forrest on the wing instead of Kuhn, and Adam Ida replacing Kyogo. So they were all the changes from the lineup midweek. But I think Jerry Burns sort of sums it up quite well here. He's saying it shows the quality in the squad. We've made a few changes and still play really well. I know it's only Ross County, but it is still great stuff to watch. Look, I think the extra cherry on the top for us at the moment is we don't have any injuries. Touch wood. You can pick whoever you want. So Brendan Rodgers at the moment can go and look at the change rooms and say, look, you're training well, or you're showing when you come off the bench, I'm ready to give you a run. And players are just having to wait their turn because there's nobody's dropping out because of injury or attrition or anything like that. Not yet, but suppose if we're going to pick up any injuries, it'll probably be in the next run of fixtures, because obviously we're basically playing 3 games a week between now up until the start of the new year. So if you're ever going to get wear and tear, I suppose it's now, but I guess we might have to become more accustomed to these sort of umpteen changes to the team. But you have to say we started the game really, really well. Right from the get-go, looking to really sort of drive forward and really put Ross County under pressure. And I mean, I think it took 30 minutes for Ross County to get a shot on our goal. I don't actually think they got inside our box with the ball until late in the first half. Like, it was just incredible. I mean, it was just so one-sided. And it was 1-0 till nearly the 25th, 26th minute or something like that. So, I mean, it all sort of happened in a flurry. And I know what you're saying, Sean, like folding faster than Superman on laundry day, but it was kind of what it was like, because just one goal, and then I thought I kept nodding off and the next goal would go in when I was watching it live, but it was actually just the goals just going like bang, 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 bang. And it was incredibly watched. And I put in the group chat at 5-0. I said, look, this could be anything. This could be double digits. Like, we're running so far over the top of them. And it is quite incredible that we go a whole second half without scoring, but, a couple of great saves and the woodwork obviously getting in the way. Sean, I'll get you go through the first goal. May as well run through the goals one by one.
First goal was the corner, wasn't it? From Luke McCowan. Now, just to call back to the point we made about Celtic TV being a shambles, there's about 65 minutes into the game, and Paolo Bernardo goes over to take a corner.
Yep.
And Paolo Bernardo, and then the Celtic TV commentator goes, that's 12 corners now, and Bernardo is taking everyone. I'm like, hold on. Checking my notes. No, the first corner was in fact a Luke McCowan corner, and it was a great corner right onto Liam Scales' head. Liam Scales is effectively being fouled. He's been held, he's been pulled, and he still manages to get his head on it, and it goes in off the underside of the bar. It was a great corner from McCowan. It was a great header from Scales. I think that was his second or third header this season from a corner. And to be honest, look, we talk about we will touch on the fact that we scored 5 in the first half and none in the second half. Not jumping ahead, but the one thing, like, when you think about that, goes in off the underside of the bar. There's one in the goalless second half where Ida hits the face of the bar. So like, there's 1 inch. That was, we were doing the same things in both halves, which is just small differences, right? And this one went in, the other one didn't, but they were both quality headers, and it was good. It was a good goal. We've added that to our game this year. We've struggled with it maybe 2 years ago. It was a big issue, and now it seems to be we now have it in the arsenal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And great header. And do you think the keeper could have done any better? Like, I mean, it was sort of put sort of just above him, sort of right. Do you think he maybe could have done better? Shane, any thoughts on that? I'm probably being a bit. I'm just curious. I think it's great header, and he's beat the keeper. But does another keeper maybe save that, or?
No, I don't think so. I think that'd be a bit harsh on Laidlaw. I thought it was just a really good header, and I want to echo Sean's comments. It was actually a really good finish because he is getting impeded. He's getting dragged back. He's got to really adjust on the fly, and he does really well to nod that in, even just to get it on the underside of the bar. And he hits it at pace too. And Sean's right. It's something that we have in previous seasons struggled with our set pieces. We've always had some usually pretty decent centre halves, and we haven't been able to find them. And this season, we look a lot more dangerous. And I think McCowan took more than just one corner. I know he took that one. I could have sworn he took a couple of others as well.
He took a couple because I actually thought it was Vi that was hitting them at one point, but it was actually, I think it was McCowan. And just that whip with the ball, when you get the ball whipped in like that, and I think Bernardo hits a decent corner as well. I think this year, between Engels, Bernardo, and obviously McCowan on the weekends, I just think our delivery is better. I know Matt O'Reilly, he was a wonderful player for us. I just questioned his delivery sometimes. I kind of felt like he floated the ball in a little bit, whereas like this year, the ball was getting hit in with pace. And I always just feel as a defender, it's always harder to defend when the ball's like, getting rattled in. Like when it's floating in, it's like it's easy to get underneath it and judge it and get something on it. But when it's coming in at pace, then it doesn't take much for the attacker to score, because really they just got to get a deflection on it, and it's potentially in the back of the net. So I just feel that our delivery of set pieces has been better. I still think free kicks were probably we could probably still be doing better, but corner wise, I mean, I think the stats, we pull these stats out all the time. I think the stats, like league-wise, like 3% conversion from corners. So we had 19 corners, nearly 20 corners. So that's one goal is 5%. So we're still ahead of the curve for this match anyway.
Still, that's above like background average, right? Like I think corners are like 1 to 2% these days. So.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So, like, if you're scoring 1 in 20, then you're still ahead of the average, as it were. But and yeah, like I say, Stales, he's not really played. Well, he hasn't played. He played for Ireland, but he hasn't really played for us for at least a few weeks now. So I mean, it's good for him to get a run and contribute. And you can see he was fucking proud of his punch when he did score. He was a big smile on his face. So, and that again, I think the other thing you're saying there, Sean, is that any resistance that Ross County's going to offer, it evaporates pretty quickly when you concede a goal in the first 20 minutes, because like your game plan for keeping it tight and doing whatever is like, I'm gonna say shot to hell, but it just makes life a lot harder. And it's at least if they're nothing each, and that's 60 minutes of something to cling on to. But nice early goal, good finish. And there was that, and I must admit, like I logged on about 18 minutes because I said I fell asleep and woke up, but obviously saw the goal at half time. But it wasn't too long after that we got our second, and this is where again it was Liam Stales got involved, because McCowan was the second goal, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Sean, sorry, I did it. Shane, you can take us through the second goal. So I knew I was going to do it at some point.
Yeah, so he's obviously already put the ball in for the corner, which Scales scored from, and then those two actually link up again. So Scales has got the ball. I think he's just, I can't remember if he's actually carried it into the county half or he's still in our half when he looks up. Eda's made a run inside. He's dragged one of the centre halves away who's playing him tight, and he's opened up all this space in behind. And McCowan's just so smart. If you look at him, he's really monitoring that space very closely and makes a darting run. County players don't pick him up, don't pick him and track him at all. I think Nisbet's the one closest to him, and he's just got no awareness of him. He ghosts in. Scales picks him out beautifully. There's still a fair bit of work for McCowan to do once he gets it in the box. He actually kills it with his right foot and then finishes with his left. And I think there is a little deflection, but it's still a quality finish nonetheless. And all credit to him. It was a wonderful goal, very well crafted. And shout out to Scales too for picking him out in the way he did. It was a really good ball in behind.
Yeah, it was. And I think McCowan really showed right from the get-go the intent to sort of get on the ball. So even if he wasn't sort of like, he was always showing, so even if he wasn't getting it, you're right, Shane, his movement was excellent. And I think Sports Scene did a little thing on it, and it just very clever, because like Ida moves out, creates the space, he goes in, Ross County boy doesn't track him, but then it still requires Stales to then clip the ball over the top. So I mean, it's like a game of chess. It's like several moves to make it all come together. And for me, it's his touch, because like the fact that he kills it, because that's an awkward ball over the top like that, to kill it dead. on his weaker foot, and then to score. I mean, it takes a deflection, but I mean, I think you've got to applaud the directness and the desire to get on the end of it. And he's doing these chances no thing of getting more starts. And I think these post match, he sort of said, like, you can't go around Celtic Park with a petted lip, because you'll get your chance and you've got to be ready to take it. And you don't just get handed it. You've got to earn it, and when you get it, you've got to take it. And he very much understands what's required. And sometimes I think it's a little bit of a veiled jab at the likes of someone like Luis Palma, that sort of like, twice time at the Pram. So during the week, he's not in the squad, and then he's watching some other team on TV rather than watching Celtic play at the same time, and he's live streaming it on Instagram and all this sort of stuff. And once you start doing that sort of thing, like, it just shows that the mentality is probably not there, sort of thing. So it's good to see that McCown understands it, and being a Celtic supporter, I'm sure he gets it. And he's a great player. And I think Jerry Burns is saying here, he says, team player, bags of talent, 100% effort, and I have to agree. Sean, we'll obviously do man of the matches, so let's keep our powder dry on that one. But great goal. Anything to add that we haven't sort of already said on that one?
You're right. No, pretty much. You guys have got it covered. The only thing I would say is on my first kind of run through of it, I thought, like, as much as that's a great touch to pull it out there, I kind of thought, he should have taken that in his stride instead of taking it out wide. But then when I watched it back again, I was like, actually, the way the defender's coming in, he's probably done the right thing there. And obviously there is a deflection, but it's like, it was still a good shot. The keeper had no chance. Like, I don't think the keeper even moved. I think he just kind of made a token movement of the arm after the ball was already in the net. Like, well, there it goes. Oh. So, like, yeah, great goal. Yeah, and I had him down as an anytime scorer. Unfortunately, I had it down with as a double with 3-0. So, yeah, sadly not.
Yeah, you obviously didn't think. You obviously thought Ross Trent would offer some resistance at 3-0.
So now we're getting to the crux of why he was so frustrated with them folding so easily.
They don't let you put on a same game multi with handicap betting anymore. So you have to pick a correct score if you're doing a same game multi.
Gamble responsibly.
Can't do a -2, because I had a separate bet on for Celtic -4, but I couldn't double it up with Luke McCown.
Know what you could lose. Your money could be spent on other things. Gamble responsibly.
Like
All right, never covered that. Well done, Sean. I knew that's the reason why you were so upset. That makes more sense. But yeah, that is interesting that you said that. Just otherwise, you would just go +3 and then you take your chances. I'll just run through some of the comments, guys, before we move on to the next goal. Richard T. I don't know if this is Richard Tobin. Are you in Scotland watching us, Richard? Great shirt, Anthony. Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate it. And then who we got here?
Who's Richard Tobin?
That's Richard who comes on the podcast.
Oh, right, okay. I don't know.
I'm assuming that's who it is. I mean, right, obviously, it must be a guy called Rich T, but we'll see. I don't know.
Well, he's named himself after a biscuit, so he's a character anyway.
And then McLaughlin P, he's stirring the tea leaves here. He thinks Palmer's the one that's been leaking the team news. So there you go. So has it been leaking since he's been out of the squad? Interesting. Something to keep an eye on when you monitor that one. Thank you for that. That's interesting. Paulo Bernardo, third goal. I'm a big Bernardo fan. I understand Engels getting a run because Engels needs to develop. He's obviously your big signing, but I think Bernardo is like a Rolls Royce. Like, he just gives you that. He does all the grunt work. He's strong. He's athletic. He can have it. He can shoot a goal. He just stuck in. A number of times he wins. He breaks up play and wins the ball back. Like, he's just. And I always go back to the cup final last year, where any other player would probably have went down under that challenge, but he stays up and feeds the ball through to Adam Idah to score the winner. So for me, I'm a big sort of proponent of seeing him get starts. In place of either Hatate or Engels or even McGregor if the circumstances permit. But I just think he's one that's really, for me, shown more game time. And this third goal, it was Simon Donnelly sort of said it. The first phase of play, the ball gets played in, and it's actually James Forrest who has a blocked shot. he said it probably would go close to goal of the season because the movement was fantastic. And then it sort of breaks back out and comes back in again. And Bernardo follows up. His first shot's blocked, and then he manages to sort of steady himself and get it on his right foot and sort of curls it into the bottom corner. And it's a tidy finish. It's 3-0 and you're thinking, well, that's the game done. And that was, I think, what was that, around about 30 minutes, 35 minutes at that point? 35, I think. Yeah. 35, yep. Sean, what can you remember that? Because it was all sort of like, I'm sort of trying to piece it all together, but it was definitely like, it was a phase of play. We could have scored, and then we recycle possession and go again and get the goal.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about quality of Celtic TV again, when we scored a goal, like, so I'm still taking a note about the James Forrest chance, and then it's back in the box and we've scored, and I'm like, I don't even know how that ball came back in the box. So they've obviously won it back in the counter press immediately. And then the Celtic TV producer's like, well, I've queued up a replay of that James Forrest chance, so I'm just going to show it anyway. And then we'll work our way back to the goal. So as soon as we scored a goal, we've got a replay of James Forrest.
Nearly scored.
Yeah, nearly scored. And like, I'm like, hold on. Is he going to show the whole phase of play? Nope, skips the phase of play and goes back to... So we just get to see the two back-to-back chances. And the game was all the goal, was almost just put in by force of will, to be honest. Like, yeah, there was like quality as there always is, but it was almost just welling it into the net, and Ross County just couldn't deal with it. Maeda, I think, sets up both chances. If I'm remember, was it?
Yeah,
did it set up Forrest, or
yeah.
was it Maeda? So it's Maeda both times, and so yeah, like it was, as you say, it wasn't. The build up to the first goal, yeah, might have been a contender for a really high quality contender for goal of the season, but in the end, it was just force of will that puts it in. There's a rebound, a bounces back, and Bernardo just has enough time and space and composure to just find that's the open side of the goal, and it's, you know, it wasn't anything special in the end. Just willed it in.
Shane, anything to add?
Yeah, a couple of things. So just to talk on the build-up, it was, yes, Maeda both times was basically the one that was the pass just before the Forrest chance, and then obviously the Bernardo goal. But both times it was McCowan that actually played Maeda in both times. Just, again, his passing was just phenomenal on the day. Perfectly weighted, perfectly timed, and that was an example of it there. The other thing I wanted to add to it was this is probably the point where it became apparent that County was kind of falling apart a bit. Obviously, the first chance comes in. They failed to clear their lines. You know, Sean was talking about the fact that he's taking notes about the Forrest chance, and then he looks up and we've scored, and that's because they play it out. Via does a really good job of winning it back. They fail to clear their lines, and then the build-up's just on again. And there's no let up. We don't get the ball. We don't get the ball at the box and look around. It's literally McCowan getting the ball, saying, mate is in space. I'm going to play him first time again. And yeah, just to echo the comments on Bernardo before, something that I think he also has in spades is poise. And I think it showed with that goal a little bit. I agree with Sean. It was kind of willing it in. It was going to happen. But, you know, he has a little bit of time there, or he has to make a pretty quick decision. And he's got the poise to do that on that second attempt. And, yeah, I just want to commend him on that poise as well, because I see that from time to time. He's got a good low center of gravity. He doesn't go to ground very easy, but yeah, I think there's a quality to there in terms of the poise that he possesses when he's on the ball that I don't think a few other midfielders have.
Well, I think back to the chance he had against Club Brugge near the end of the game, and he was pissed off with himself because he knew he should have done better with the chance. He didn't quite dig. It was a shot on the edge of the box, and the ball just sort of stuck under his foot a little bit. But he knew that I should have done better with that, and like you could tell he was annoyed. And it's like, that's all right. Like, you know, he's still a young player as well. But like, it's the fact that I did see that he got annoyed about it. It's like, well, he knows he can do better than that. So that's like, yeah, that only stands in sort of regard. Was like someone like a Palmer would stand there and smile and go, "Oh, I've missed it," like, you know. But he's actually like, you know, he was annoyed and going like, "No, I should have done better with that." So, you know, so it does bode well. And like I said, it's just, at the moment, we've just got an embarrassment of riches in terms of everyone's available. But I mean, you know, all of a sudden you pick up a couple of injuries, then we'll say the team still picks itself. But it just, at the moment, like I said, we've got that luxury of rotating through. And like I said, McCowan and Bernardo came in and seamless in terms of that midfield. Looked like it had been playing together all season. Really, I mean, they fitted in the cogs in the wheel. And big Adam Ida, I mean, he's not had many starts this season, and he was putting himself about. And and sort of getting in amongst it as well. And so yeah, it was positive. So 3-0, and you're thinking, yep, game done. And then next minute, upsets the captain. Again, McCarron sort of picks the ball up in a dangerous area and sort of gets under control. And he's probably the easiest assist he's ever going to get. Feeds it slightly wide to McGregor. McGregor takes a touch, just does that thing where he just gives himself a little bit of space to run onto. Pulls the trigger through 2 or 3 defenders and whistles out the corner. I think that is an absolutely amazing goal. And it was an amazing goal. And then Adam Ida probably does something even slightly better, I think, like a couple of minutes later. Then you're thinking, that's probably even better again. Sean, which goal did you like better and why?
Callum McGregor, because it makes him outright top scorer in the Scottish Premiership.
That's true. Yep. And they're all outside the box. I mean, that in itself has to be a record. I mean, who does score 6 goals outside the box? I mean, and they're all, I would say that they're carbon copies of the same goal, but like there's some strong similarities between those 6 goals. But they're fantastic. I mean, your captain and McGregor, playing that sort of more holding defensive midfielder role, but getting forward and scoring important goals. I mean, all right, maybe that one at 4-0 is maybe not as important, but he scored some other crucial goals this season so far. Shane, what was your pick of those two? Because they were obviously both thunderbolts.
Definitely the Calmac goal. I thought it was just a wonderful strike, and akin to what we've seen from him a number of times this season. It's got to be like his 5th or 6th, hasn't it?
I see 6. Yeah,
6. Yep.
Yeah, and they've all been from basically outside the box, right? So it was just a tremendous strike, and Sean was talking before about the Forest chance, and by the time he looked up from his notes, Bernardo had scored. Well, this was me writing notes on the Bernardo goal, look up going, what the hell just happened? Like, what's going on here? And I completely missed it first time. So I had to rewind it and watch it again. And at this point, to borrow a phrase that has been well used before and so forth, County were at 6s and 7s, if you'll permit me that phrase. They were lost at this point. I can't think of who the player was, basically imploring. He was slightly to the side of McGregor. He was imploring the back 4 to step up and not allow him the space, and none of them would do it. They were just sitting back, waiting for him to take a shot. It was just terrible. They were lost at this point. And, it's a cracking strike. And taking nothing away from Ida, like any other day, we'd be talking about Ida's goal, right? Which was tremendous and a lovely bit of skill. And again, shout out to Via, who's involved, I'm pretty sure, in winning it back, which then sets up the play for Ida to then get the goal. But yeah, Calmax for me.
I will say about the Ida goal, like the touch he takes on the edge of the box, looks like it's fake. It looks like it's from like when you played ISS Pro back in like 2008 and like players did things that were not physically possible. It kind of looks like that. So great finish, of course, but the touch is just like you watch it a few times, you're like, what happened there? Like, how did the ball move that way and his legs move that? What's happened? What's actually happened here? And yeah, so that was the most impressive thing about that goal for me, even though it was a great finish as well.
No, I must admit, I just like the fact that he got the touch and the swivel, and and it's good for him to get amongst the goals as well, because he doesn't get to start that often, so it's important that he is scoring, and that puts pressure on Kyogo. And you want that. You want your 2 strikers, fighting for that shirt. You want healthy competition for places, and that was good. And at halftime, we sort of go in 5-0. Laidlaw comes off injured. He clashes with Ida, and he just tapped the canvas and went, "I'm done. Get me out of here. I've had enough." I'm sure some of the Ross County players were probably thinking, "Yeah, I've tweaked something, and I can't come back out." So he made 2 changes at halftime as well, and then we made 1 change. So Yang coming on for Maeda. So Yang getting a half of football, which is important for his development, because again, he's probably one that's not seen as much game time as some of the other players in squads. And again, it's probably the one area I feel we're a little bit light on is in that wing area, because if you've got Maeda, you've got Kuhn, and then you've got Forrest, and then after that, it's a bit of a drop off or a golf after that. So we kind of need to have that sort of something to develop and look at. And then obviously at 60 minutes, we bring on Arnie Engels and Tony Ralston for Cal McGregor and Alistair Johnson. So they get a half at 30 minutes off. And then later on, Atati comes on for McCown at 70 minutes and Greg Taylor comes on for Vi at 80 minutes. So this whole squad getting used. Good to see. I mean, I think I watched back most of the second half. I counted about 4 or 5 chances where we could have scored. Obviously, Ida hits the woodwork from a corner. Great header, just unlucky. The keeper pulls a tremendous save against Valle. He broke through and should have scored. There's a few others, guys.
Ida hits the crossbar, buys 1-on-1. The Ross County defender slices it onto his own crossbar. Greg Taylor hits the post, and then there's another 2 chances from Ida that the keeper saves that were both actually quite difficult. One of them was a volley that would have been like, he's talking about goal of the season contenders. That was a ball from over the top from Taylor, where it doesn't let it hit the ground. He absolutely smashes it, and the keeper makes a good reaction save. So yeah, there was at least 6 clear chances that on another day, if 3 of those went in, you'd be like, yeah, okay. So it was actually the statistical anomaly, the clustering of goals we had in the first half. We had the opposite in the second half, where it was a statistical anomaly in the opposite direction. Great chances not converted.
Well, yeah, I think our overall XG was 3.07 if you're into that sort of thing. And then I think somebody just asked in the comments there about block shots. And I think we had 12 block shots. So yeah, so I mean they did throw themselves at it, particularly in the second half. I think they started to realise at 5-0 it's like, yeah, we've been embarrassed. So they better dig in a bit deep. Sorry, Shane, I interrupted you there. Fire away, mate.
No, I was just going to say Sean covered off all the chances, and definitely the ones that I remember, which was the Ida post, the header, which he loses his marker and effectively gets a free header and hits the post, and then the volley opportunity. And the Via one as well. But what I was going to highlight, and I'm probably preempting a discussion that's going to come shortly. Again, the architect or the player playing that final ball in for all those chances is Luke McCowan. He could have literally finished with like 5 or 6 assists. Like it was tremendous how he was pretty much almost central to all the chances we created in both the first and second half. He was involved in everything.
Yeah, no, he had a tremendous game, and like I said, it's good that you've got players who aren't getting much game time. Because I mean, he's literally getting 10 minutes here, 10 minutes. And to be honest, I really wanted him to come off the bench for the Bruges game in place of Hatate. Hatate was gassed at about 70 minutes, so if you'd have brought him on with 20 to go, you just don't know. I mean, obviously, you're never going to know what would have happened, but I just feel that was an obvious substitution to make. And I think Kuhn he sort of put his hand up and said maybe he tweaked something and we ended up taking him off instead. But I just feel that for me was probably the one substitution that Rodgers maybe missed on the week during the week in Europe. But he's just, like I said, hopefully we will be seeing him more and more in the next month or so, because just the sheer number of games. I mean, I'm just looking at the fixture list here. We've got Aberdeen at Pittodrie during the week, so we've got that Thursday morning Perth time, so that's 4 a.m. for us. That'll be a nice 7 a.m. kickoff for you, Shane. So depending on what your work situation is that day. And then on Saturday, we've got an 11 o'clock kickoff, 2 in the morning for you, Shane, on Sunday against Hibs at home. And then we've got Domino. Danny
Minogue? Open Danny Minogue?
Isn't that a label printer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right. We got them in the Champions League next week, and then obviously we got the cup final on the 15th at 11:30. That's going to be a big day. So I'm off the drink as of tonight until that game. So I've got 2 weeks to give my liver a rest. But that's my next big thing. So I mean, they're 4 big games. All right, Hibs aren't traveling terribly well. Let's be honest. Like them and Hearts are struggling, but we still have to do the business and get the points. But I think something in the comments said that they'd make 3 changes going up to Pittodrie. They'd say that they'd bring in Trusty Kuhn and Kyogo. I'd probably echo those shouts. Sean, may as well look. We've got time, so we may as well look a wee bit forwards. We've covered the game.
I had looked at that run of fixtures you were talking about. So obviously, Dynamo Zagreb in the cup final are in there.
Yes.
But in terms of the domestic games, of the next 5 domestic games, four of the games are against second, third, fourth, and fifth place. So the only one that you would say is like easy would be Hibs, which at home, who have just won 3-0 against Motherwell. So they might actually be hitting form at the wrong time for us. And they, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but Hibs also have the midweek off. So they will
possibly.
I believe they'll be having all week to prepare for us. Well, we've got a round trip to Aberdeen to deal with. Obviously, Aberdeen have regressed back to what the statistics said they should be doing, which is not winning every game, but having the odd scrappy draw and stuff like that, and even getting beat on the odd one. And that's what's happened. Of last 3 games, what is it? 2 draws and a loss, something like that.
Yeah, they've only won 1 in the last 5, if you include the cup game against us. So yeah.
So yeah, they're starting to their mentality that's carried them this far is going to been taking a bit of a dent. They played on Sunday as well, so hopefully we've got an extra 24 hours to recover. Yeah, they've got home advantage, but it's still they're going to go for it. They're going to go hell for leather. It's hopefully the spectre of that 6-0 win hangs over them, and we can, have a lot of, apart from the physical advantage and apart from the skill advantage, hopefully that'll give us a bit of a mental advantage as well. Because
the only question will be maybe the weather and the condition of the pitch, whether that's a wee bit of a leveler.
What's it like in Scotland? I don't even know right now. To be honest.
My sister-in-law is living in Aberdeen now, so she's actually flying over here this week, and there's been snow up there the last couple of weekends, so it's cold. So
Wednesday is supposed to be clear according to the forecast. Okay. 8 degrees.
We'll see. It just depends. I mean, for me, it's just like what the pitch is like. I mean, the weather's the weather, but if that pitch is taking an absolute beating, then that's a great leveler. If it's really sort of boggy and it sort of affects our ability to play our football, because Celtic Park looked an absolute dream on the weekend.
I was going to say, how good did it look? I noticed that pre-game. I was looking at it. And it's hard to sometimes you're like, the camera can be deceptive, but it looked sensational.
No, it looked good.
Yeah, and they played on it like it was. It was not like playing on. It's so different from when you play on the old worn out 80s carpet at Rugby Park, or down the back of a close at Tynecastle. It was flat. It was expansive. It was perfect for football. I wish all. Look, I get that these teams have to do this. You have to have Craig Levine growing the grass long and Kilmarnock refusing to water their AstroTurf and blah 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 blah. Whatever, try to get whatever they can to pull level, not pull level, but like to mitigate our technical advantage. It's frustrating. It's frustrating, and I don't think it serves the greater good of the game. I do wonder if they do this against other teams. Do they? The Hearts let it grow long when Hibs are coming to town? I don't think so. Have we outgrown Scotland? Are these teams a bit off without us? Maybe. Bigger topic for another day, I think.
Yes, topic for another day. That's end of season sort of, fill in the gaps chat. That's what that is. Shane, changes for Aberdeen. Obviously, we made 6 changes during the game on the weekends. You'd expect quite a few of those to come back into the team. Obviously, playing second in the league away from home. Who do you think deserves to keep a spot, and who do you think was ready to come back in, put you in the hot seat?
Well, I think the 3 changes that came up in the comments before were the 3 that I'd lean on as well, to be honest. I think Trusty comes back in for Scales. Scales didn't do anything wrong. In fact, I can preface all of my comments by saying nobody against Ross County did anything wrong to warrant, losing their spot. But I think Trusty's built up a very good partnership with Carter Vickers, and I like seeing those 2 play together. So Trusty comes back in. Cohen's been tremendous, arguably player of the season. So if he's fit and ready, he has to come back in. And then Kyogo leading the line. He would have seen the way he'd have played. We were talking before about it's great to have our 2 strikers hungry and wanting to prove themselves every time they're on the park. I can imagine Kyogo scoring a brace against the Dons at Pittodrie. So he comes back in for me as well.
I can see a situation where with the 6 changes, he makes 3 changes, reverts 3 changes back, and then against Hibs, he reverts the other 3 changes. back again, if you know what I mean. So you're rotating through, because obviously you think the Aberdeen game's the harder of the two games. So so sort of bring some quality back in and then filter some of it back out again, or change it over again against Hibs. But I say just got that luxury at the moment, so it is.
Well, we could. I was just going to say we could effectively see the starting 11 we saw against Ross County actually come up against Hibs. Really,
yes.
Like that would not surprise me at all if the same starting 11 that we saw against Ross County was selected for Hibs. So exactly to your point, Anthony.
Yeah, fantastic. And I've got Jerry said a few things about Zagreb here, saying that they've got a bit of a hostile environment. And I think somebody was mentioning here that they've got a lot of injury problems. But usually this is what happens to Rangers when they're playing in Europe, is the teams get all the injuries. Because in Nice were apparently minced last week. They had like 8 players out or something like that. So hence the 4-0 flattering scoreline. It was some absurd number of players unavailable anyway, but that voodoo that seems to be around Mordor every time that they go to play in Europe, it just seems to. It's
all right. Keep grinding out those coefficient points for us. That's why we're in such a comfortable position. It suits us just perfectly. You go in the Consolation Cup and knock up some coefficient points for us grind monkeys.
The amount of changes though that obviously that they had to encounter, it just doesn't sound very Nice.
Oh, drum and cymbals fall off the cliff.
I tell you what, though, I did watch, because it was on at a reasonable hour. I did watch the first half of Rangers versus St Johnstone. Oh my goodness, that was some of them.
So
that was horrible.
I was relieved. When Rangers scored, so I could turn it off.
Old man chucked it at halftime. He says, "This is absolute shite. I'm going to bed. This is this." He couldn't watch it. It was so bad. And even St Johnstone would break on the counter, and they would just run out. They'd do huffing and puffing, and couldn't even follow through on a counter attack. They were just that knackered. It's just, So I say an own goal broke that deadlock, but I mean, I should be absolutely nothing to fear at Hampden next weekend. But I know Paul in the group chat's very bullish, and he'll be back next week to say it himself. But I really hope we do absolutely gut them next week. And really give them an absolute stop.
I'm confident right now, but when it comes to it, I will not be.
Oh, I know. You'll have that few days. We'll build up to the Zagreb game, and then from there, Sean, your confidence will take a dive, because it always does. But Celtic Club next week, mate. Are you coming?
I'll be in Scotland.
Oh, he was off. Have you got a ticket for the final?
Bit of a commute, yeah. I don't have it. Oh, man, nobody's got it. Nobody's got those. I'll see if I can get one, but it just feels very unlikely. I would. Okay. It's so hard to get a ticket for any game at the moment, man. Like the last time I was back, I managed to get one from a supporters bus for an away game, but that was it. Like you're honestly more likely to get a ticket for an away game than a home game. Celtic need to sort out this ticket exchange thing. It's a shambles. All these empty seats. People like me can't get a ticket.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why Celtic don't want money. He's like, here, have some extra money. No, we don't want this. I don't understand. Like, it's a weird thing. I can chuck a talking point if you want, but sorry if you want to rebuttal that.
Interesting you say that, Sean, because I was a season ticket holder of the Fremantle Dockers a few years back, and they've always had the ticket exchange things. It's like, you can't go to the game, put your tickets up, and somebody else can take them, and they get them at a discounted rate or whatever, because it's like, well, it's money for nothing anyway, but they'd rather have somebody there seeing the game than not. I mean, obviously, if I knew someone who could take the tickets, I'd just give them the tickets. But some weeks, things pop up, and you're like, you're a family event or whatever, and nobody can take your tickets. So why not? Why deprive someone else the opportunity to go to the game? It seems so straightforward and obvious, but yeah, it seems like a foreign concept in Scotland. It's just weird to me. But there's a few things the marketing department in football in Scotland that could do with a bit of a G up, but. Anyway, Sean, you're trying to tell us about unbeaten runs. So
yes, we are on an unreported in the media, hitherto unreported for whatever bizarre reason, 28 domestic games unbeaten and 22 in the league. Okay, so what was the previous record we had? Was it 69? So we're like 40% of the way to that.
60 something, yeah.
Cool. I've not looked it up, but I seem to remember when Lazarus were on an unbeaten run last season. that was like something like 13, 14, when it was in the teens and it was being mentioned at every game, Rangers extend their unbeaten run to 17 or whatever it was at the time. I can't remember the number. 28 all in domestic, not mentioned. Not at all in the media. Complete blackout on it. Don't understand this.
Well, as you say blackout, my little torch just went out there. So there you go. That was very topical there. I mean, this doesn't fit the narrative, Sean. That's what it is. It's like, they don't want to see Celtic doing well and being dominant. It's like, well, that doesn't sell papers. That's just trying to wind up a certain subsection of the mutants in Scotland, and that has an adverse effect to sales of newspapers and whatnot. So I could totally understand why the media is not latching onto that one, but it's still a story. You're right. We are very dominant at the moment, and touch wood, no signs of it stopping. And to add to that, we're actually getting results in Europe now. So that was always the stick that the BBC would beat you over the head with. Oh, you do well in Scotland, but you're crap in Europe. I mean, Tom English, he'd love to throw that back at you, but he can't even say that now because we're gaining points in Europe, and we're in with a shout for getting through into the next sort of knockout phase of that competition. And it's a top tier competition in Europe. So it just doesn't fit the narrative, Sean. That's that for me. That's the long and the short of it.
Here's my conspiracy theory. If you remember back to the end of that 69 match unbeaten run, we were really poor. Like it was like when we talked about it at the time, it was like a millstone around our neck. And when it did eventually, the dam does break. It was 4-0 away. We get absolute cuffs. Yeah, exactly. And here's where my conspiracy theory comes into though. I think Brendan Rodgers has tapped up the media to not talk about it, because when we, I think it was after the Brugge, it was either after or before the Brugge game last week, Rodgers comes out and talks about our record. And what he does is he actually includes the European and domestic game in one, and he talks about the record for the season. And that's something that we've never done in the past. We've never put European and domestic records together to talk about what our record is for the season. So he came out and he said, we've played 20, we've won 16, drawn 3, lost 1. And he's said that this is all one thing, it's all the same, and it feels like he's trying to change that mentality to make that we are a European team. These games count the same as every other game. But why the media is not focusing on this domestic thing do you think Rodgers has contacts and he's telling them not to? Do you think he's?
I don't think he has that much control, Sean. I think there's certain media outlets that would maybe be thingy to that, but I think there's certain rogue elements that would just do whatever sort of narrative that they want to run. But I think it's just painting Celtic in a good light, and they just wouldn't do that unless they had a gun to the head. They probably still wouldn't do it. So that's it for me. I think this is as simple as that. But that's a very interesting thought. Shane, have you anything to add to this scintillating discussion? Like, is there any thoughts that you've had on all this?
No.
Tinfoil hat.
Is that tinfoil? Is that alfoil?
It's a very interesting theory. I'm not sure I subscribe to it. I'm not sure if he has the pull. Similar to what you were saying, Anthony. I'm not sure if he has the pull to sort of have the media kind of do that on his behalf. But I did wonder whether it was just a case of the European record being mentioned deliberately, as Sean was talking about, that maybe people have picked up on it and are using that as a case of, well, we're not going to talk about the domestic side of things because the European performances haven't reached the exact same level. But I think that's more just, I'm probably leaning towards Anthony's point that maybe people have just simply slept on the issue and not realised it. And then secondly, don't really want to give Celtic that kind of due credit where it is well and truly deserved. So, it's a nice theory. I like it. I don't subscribe to it, but I do like it.
I think we'll draw a line under that one. That's all good. So what we'll do is we'll round back around for man of the match, because usually this time in the pod we all give our votes for man of the match. I've got a feeling I know who's going to get man of the match, but I'll go first and say Kasper Schmeichel. I thought he had a great game. Those goal kicks were fantastic. No, I'm not going to Kasper Schmeichel. I'm going to go with Luke McCowan. I thought, to come off out of not the wilderness, but obviously he's not only second star, and to 3 assists and a goal, fantastic, and he's got the right attitude to succeed at Celtic. And how he has not had a Scotland call up yet, beyond me, but I'm sure that won't be far away if he keeps putting performances like that on the park. I'm sure Big Stevie Clark will be getting him in there because he's got a few bits of deadwood in that midfield of his. But anyway, enough about that. We're not necessarily starting midfield, but in his squad. Shane, who's your man of the match?
Well, Casper was a close second. To echo the Celtic TV commentary, apparently he didn't even have to wash his gloves after the game in a real kind of sideswipe at Ross County. But no, it's Luke McCowan. It was, as individual performances go at Celtic Park, it's definitely in the last few seasons of recent memory, it's up there for mine. Like, he was just everywhere. And we can talk about the opponent and, they wilted, let's be honest. But you still have to beat what's in front of you, and you still have to put your best foot forward. And when you actually see that, he hasn't been starting and he does get that opportunity, everyone talks about taking your opportunity when you get the chance. And he did that. He's been biding his time. He's been very patient. I know we've all been across all the Celtic Down Under programs have been calling to actually see him start a few more games than what he has. And when he gets that opportunity, he puts that best foot forward. And yeah, he was central to everything we created against County. He really was. He was involved in pretty much everything. I think there was only one chance that we had that he wasn't part of the build-up for, and it's purely because he was subbed off by that point. So it was a tremendous individual performance. I'm racking my brains to actually think of one similar. Really, it was that good. So yeah, Luke McCowan for me all day long.
Sean, do you make it 3 from 3?
Well, on Kasper Schmeichel, I actually had a really funny observation noted down, which in the 57th minute, Scales gives him this back pass that was hit with so much pace, it was ridiculous. And I don't know if Kasper Schmeichel didn't react so much in the moment, but he put under pressure with the absolute pace of this back pass from Scales, and I was like, "Oh, that was a bit harsh from Scales there." And then about 5 minutes later, Schmeichel absolutely rattles one straight at Scales, and I was like, "Yes, fair play, man. That was revenge. You let him know." The most passive aggressive pass from a goalkeeper I've ever seen.
Fair play. Fair play.
So I enjoyed that one. But yeah, Luke McCowan. Even before the first goal, for the first 10 minutes, even he was just playing. When you're a kid and you're trying to get better at keepy uppies, and you've got that ball and a string that goes around your waist kind of thing. He was playing like that, except he didn't have a string and it was a real ball. He was just doing things it was just. Yeah, he looked like he should have been the one that's been starting ahead of Rio Hatate recently. Bernardo was good as well for different reasons, but yeah, Luke McCowan, clearly.
He's no Conor Barron, but Luke McCowan, congratulations, man of the match for this week. First one of many, I'd imagine, as he develops into his Celtic career. So fantastic. And he was crowned man of the match in the game as well. So yeah, we're all in agreement on that one. So this is the stage now where we have some recommendations of things that we've either watched or listened or gigs or whatever's been happening in your world. So Shane, what have you got for us, mate? What's been biding your time when it's not been sport and sport?
I'm going to step into Paul's shoes here and take on music. I know Paul always gives a very good and detailed music recommendation, which I usually take on board. And a couple of things he's recommended throughout the episodes I've either already been listening to or I've checked out shortly afterwards. He's got a very good eclectic taste in music, does Paul. And I hope he loves that compliment, and I hope he doesn't get a big head from it. But for me, stepping into those shoes, it is music related for me, and it's actually something that's completely out of my wheelhouse. So it's an artist by the name of Leon Bridges. He's from Fort Worth, Texas, and he does sort of I guess what you call original kind of rhythm and blues, that kind of music. And the reason, and it's still, you say it's music, it's still sport related. The reason I came across Leon is because I watch the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA. They're the team that I follow. And he actually helped design their new jersey that they wear, or one of their new jerseys that they wear. And it's inspired by the sort of the music of Dallas and Fort Worth area. And so I came to know his name through that, and thought I'd give his debut album Coming Home a listen. And again, completely not really the music I listen to, but I really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. It is like traditional rhythm and blues, really enjoyable. He's got a wonderful voice, wonderful craftsmanship in terms of songwriting. And the final track, River, is genuinely one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. I do talk a little bit in hyperbole. I do that by default with a lot of the things I recommend, but that track genuinely blew me away when I heard it for the first time a few weeks ago. So Leon Bridges, Coming Home. If you think it'll tickle your fancy, definitely give it a listen. And if you don't, like me, give it a listen. You'll be very pleasantly surprised. So Leon Bridges, Coming Home.
Thank you, Paul, for that music recommendation. No, that's really cool. And I must admit, it's great when you can find music of a genre that you don't normally listen to, and you go like, that's actually really, really good and amazing, and it sort of might even pique your interest into that whole genre when it's not something you normally listen to. So no, that's great. So thank you very much for that, Shane. Sean, anything rocking your world?
When you're talking about music, everyone's going on about Kneecap at the moment. I jumped onto YouTube and I was like, I'll give it a crack. Everyone's banging on about them. Like 1.5 songs. I was like, nah, this is not for me. Fair enough. I respect their political stances, but not my type of music. I've finished watching The Diplomat on Netflix. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I watched that. Yep.
And a movie that I rewatched, it's a relatively old one now, I guess, that most people might have missed on the first releases, Captain Fantastic, with Viggo Mortensen. It's a very good movie. I think it's about 10-15 years old now. But yeah, that one's on Netflix as well. I'd recommend that. I would not recommend Plane, starring Gerard Butler. That was not a great movie.
No, Gerard Butler's he's gone a bit downhill with these movies of late. But yeah, Sean, very interesting. The second season of Diplomat, they've managed to weave in Scottish independence into the plot, so it's topical. So you don't wonder if there's a little bit of political interference in that endeavor. But anyway, I've just managed to watch the first episode of The Penguin, a little bit behind the 8 ball on that one. But
was it good?
First episode was amazing, and it sort of picks up immediately after the aftermath of the Batman. So that's obviously the Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves movie. But the first episode got me hooked, and then I decided to have 3 birthday parties, so I haven't had a chance to watch any more since then. So, but I plan to catch up with that this week. My sister-in-law is about 3 or 4 episodes in, so I've said to her I'd catch up so that we could watch the rest of it together when she gets here. So I'm looking forward to that. But the first episode really gets me in, and the fact that Colin Farrell's underneath those prosthetics, like, you just cannot pick it at all, and it's great. It's really, really good. Anyway, thank you very much, both of you, for joining me. It's been good to be back. It feels like it's been a few weeks since I've been on, or it has been a few weeks since I've been on with the international break. But Paul is definitely back. Richard is probably going to be back next week. So it will be good to have your company as we cover the Celtic Hibs game. Obviously, we'll touch on the Aberdeen game as well. But yeah, it's just going to be a fast run into Christmas. Plenty of football. It's a good time of year. It's just starting to feel like it's starting to feel a little bit like Christmas, even though it's just starting to get hotter here in Perth. But that's part of the course of this side of the world. So thank you very much for joining us. As per usual, follow us on all the socials. Like this episode, it helps other like-minded Celts. Find us online, and if you've got any comments, leave them in the YouTube section, and always check them out, and I appreciate your feedback. So we'll be back next week. Thank you very much for joining us, and all that's left to say is hail, hail.
Hail.